After 2 years of promises, they gave my promotion to the worst person on the team, so I left and let them sink. Back to the story. I'd been at my company as a graphic designer in the marketing department for around 3 to 4 years. When I started, it was just 3 of us in the team, including a team lead I respected deeply. The team was small, but I loved the creative challenges and working closely with my coworkers. As our team grew, I quickly stood out as one of the most dedicated and fastest designers. I trained every new hire, led projects, delivered presentations, and even organized workshops for the team. Over time, I took on the kind of responsibilities you'd expect of a senior designer and poured everything into each project. Then, things started to change. My team lead left, which meant even more responsibilities landed on my plate as we had no replacement for over a year. It felt like a perfect opportunity to prove myself and show that I was ready for the senior designer role. I was told during my annual review that I was on track, and if I kept up the hard work, I'd be promoted after another year. But that's when I saw something that made my stomach drop. A newer coworker, a notoriously lazy, toxic type, had just been promoted to senior designer. I was stunned. She'd joined the team much later than me, did the absolute bare minimum, and constantly passed her unfinished projects to me because I was fast. I couldn't believe it. She didn't have a clue about design strategy, stakeholder management, or even team collaboration. Most of the time, she'd sweet-talk the higher-ups, taking credit for things she didn't do, and then passing any real work to the rest of us. What really killed me was seeing her parading around, acting like a leader, telling everyone else how to work, and setting team guidelines she barely followed herself. She even had a reputation among stakeholders as impossible to work with. They frequently requested that I handle their projects instead of her. After months of this, we finally got a new team lead, and I saw a chance to fight for the promotion I'd been promised. I put together a presentation with all my project successes, positive feedback from coworkers, and a portfolio of senior-level work I'd been handling. The team lead was impressed and acknowledged that I was one of the most talented designers on the team. I thought, finally, someone saw my hard work. But not long after, the same coworker messed up a big project, affecting not only my workflow but also my reputation because she'd looped me into it to cover for her. I corrected her work, but instead of appreciation, she stormed into the office and started yelling, accusing me of embarrassing her in front of the stakeholder. I calmly explained that I was simply following project guidelines, which she had ignored. When our team lead got involved, he agreed that I was in the right, but he still seemed scared to confront her fully and ended up coddling her to keep her quiet. By the time my next annual review rolled around, I'd had enough but held on to a shred of hope that I'd finally be recognized. Instead, my team lead gave me a 3-star rating out 5 and told me I should be more present. He had the nerve to compare me to the lazy coworker, saying I needed to emulate her social presence. I was floored. I'd been the one keeping our team running, training new hires, checking on everyone's work, even fixing her mistakes, and this was how he rewarded me? I refused to sign the review papers, telling him I wouldn't be proving anything else. I told him that if he thought she was senior material, then he could let her do the work. I'd be stepping back and doing only what was required. No more senior-level tasks, no more training, no more rescuing her half-finished projects. He started panicking, offering me the promotion in 6 months instead of a year, but I was done. 2 weeks later, I accepted a higher-paying job offer and handed in my notice. My manager was shocked, begging me to stay and asking what he could do. I told him there was nothing he could say that would make up for the years of disrespect. As soon as I decided to leave, I knew exactly how I'd handle my departure. Since all those senior tasks were no longer my problem, I wasn't going to spend my final 2 weeks writing down guidelines or passing on any of the knowledge I'd built up over the years. After all, if I wasn't senior enough to earn the title, why should I act like one? Almost 60% of the work processes, design systems, and templates that kept our team afloat were things I had built from scratch, and I knew it would take them months to untangle the gaps I was about to leave behind. The team leader must have realized this pretty quickly because, every day, he started showing up at my desk with another desperate plea for help. Just a few guidelines, he'd say, or just walk us through the workflow one last time. Each time, I reminded him that he'd refused my promotion, and as I saw it, that meant my time and expertise were no longer his to ask for. The day I handed in my badge and walked out of that building was the first time I felt genuinely free in years. Now, I'm in a new job where my contributions are recognized and rewarded. Looking back, I can only hope this experience was a lesson for my former team lead and his senior designer. Maybe they'll learn what happens when you ignore someone's hard work and loyalty for the wrong reasons. But honestly, that's no longer my problem. Update. First of all, thank you all for reading my post and sharing your own experiences. It really helps to move on from that place, even if I can't forget what I went through. It's shocking to see how many people have dealt with the same thing. I hope this post will remind you to value yourself and maybe push you out of your comfort zone if you're not getting the respect you deserve. Some of you thought my story sounded too good to be true or felt I was overplaying my talent. Normally, I'd be modest, but when you put in years of work, gain experience, and finally learn your worth, you stop holding back. Everyone has a breaking point, and this was mine, a major wake-up call that I'd had enough. Before I jump into what happened at the company after I left, Here's a bit more context. My team lead was completely new to managing, and he just didn't know how to handle the conflict. As for my lazy coworker, I get why some of you might think she slept her way to the promotion, but that wasn't it. She was way too chatty, loved sharing her secrets, and with the office being a gossip hotspot, we'd all have known if something like that was going on. She simply knew how to use her charm and manipulate people, which got her ahead. So, what's the real tea? What happened after I left? I'm still close with my former project coordinator, aka my work bestie, and if anyone had the inside scoop, it was her. They did try to get my lazy ex-coworker to step up and be a better teammate, but, surprise, nothing changed. She's still the same, and they seem stuck with her behavior. As for replacing me, they had to spread my workload across 3 to 4 junior designers. To manage this, they merged 2 teams, but that caused some frustration. Now the juniors were on the same level as the mediors, and people were not happy about that. They also lost a lot of files and work that I'd done, so they had to redo it all from scratch. In the end, nothing major happened to the company, but they're still struggling to deal with my lazy ex-coworker, who's managed to shove her responsibilities onto the juniors. So, a win-win for her, I guess. Lesson learned, everyone is replaceable, but it's essential to know your worth. I absolutely love my new workplace. I'm working with my amazing old team lead who left before this mess. My hard work is recognized and appreciated. And the best part? We don't have junior or senior titles here. We're all equal as graphic designers, and it's refreshing.
Am I the asshole for telling my husband that he will lose the privilege to name our daughter if he gives his parents $45,000? My husband, Gary, M41, and I, F38, are expecting our first child in a little more than 3 months. As you can imagine, things have been quite hectic as we prepare. Overall, Gary is an excellent spouse. However, he has an issue regarding his relationship with his parents. Gary's family lived in extreme poverty for most of his life. It was so bad that his parents would regularly skip meals so that he and his brothers had enough to eat, and they came close to homelessness several times. Fortunately, Gary and his brothers were all able to secure good stable jobs and have worked hard to pull their parents out of poverty. The biggest issue I have with Gary is that he spends excessively on his parents. Around the time we met, he had just taken out a mortgage on a nice house for them. This strained our relationship at the time because I didn't want him to make any major financial commitments to other people before we were married. This was perhaps the biggest example until now. In the past few weeks, I've noticed Gary talking a lot with his brothers about buying something else for their parents. I was curious, so I asked him, and he mentioned something about how he and his brothers wanted to buy a car for their parents since their old one was starting to have issues. I asked him not to spend too much because we're expecting a baby and don't know what expenses will arise in the coming months. He reassured me that he wouldn't. For the past 2 weeks or so, Gary has been working later than usual. I even overheard him telling a friend in our neighborhood that he needed to work longer hours because he was about to make a major purchase. I'll admit this next part may seem wrong, but I was frustrated with his late hours, so I logged onto his home laptop. I saw that on Tuesday he made a $45,000 wire transfer. Of course, I was fuming seeing he spent that much, and my curiosity got the better of, so I checked out his WhatsApp, also on his computer, and read some of the messages he was sending his brothers. Turns out they are preparing to drop around $105,000 on a car called a G90 for their parents. Gary sent the $45,000 to his brother who lives in the same city as their parents. I saw a few pictures of the specific car, and read some of the messages he was sending the dealership rep about fully on board, and all this made me feel sick to my stomach. When Gary came home, I did confront him about this. I said that he was being irresponsible for spending that kind of money without consulting me, and that I wanted him and his brothers to cancel the whole thing for the time being. Gary became very defensive and started saying that we had more than enough money in case of an emergency, and that he'd work overtime the next few weeks so that he could make it back. We argued. I called him a liar. He said I broke his trust by going through his computer. I got so angry, angrier than I've ever been, and I told him that since he spent this kind of money without telling, he lost the privilege to name our daughter. He got frustrated by this and just said I was being too much. We ended up not eating together, and we even slept separately last night. We have also not spoken since, as he ended up leaving extra early for work today. I personally think he's being too stubborn, but my best friend thinks I'm too harsh and that I should apologize. AITA context. For those wondering, last year according to his taxes he made about $763,000. Give or take this year, he should be making around the same amount. My issues are that he went behind my back, and 45 is still a massive amount of money. My 23M boyfriend held me 19F underwater during a bath to prove a point, and I'm still shaken. I'm 19F and have been with my boyfriend 23M for over a year now. We come from different countries and religions, but made it work. I have to mention this. My boyfriend loves turning everything into a competition. We both go to the gym, and he's always like, who can do this better? Even at home, he's always asking, cook better, clean faster, you name it. A week ago, we were relaxing in the bathtub together. He asked who I thought could hold the other underwater the longest. I found it weird and just brushed it off as one of his usual questions. seconds. Just 2 to 3 minutes later, he got up as if to get out of the bathtub and suddenly pushed me underwater. He kept me under for what felt like more than 20 seconds. When he finally let go, he started laughing. I'm generally healthy, but I have a heart condition that requires daily medication to keep my heart rate normal. Without meds, my heart rate go up to 140 to 150 bpm. Even with meds, sudden situations like this can make my heart rate spike to 140 and stay between 110 to 120 for the next few days. He knows this. He brought up what happened today and said he apologized, which he didn't, and that I should get over it. I'm trying. He said he was trying to prove a point, that I need to work on myself more. It doesn't make sense to him because he's naturally stronger than me, and no matter how much I work out, I can't always defend myself against everything successfully. I can't talk to my sister or mother about it. They just ask what I was doing in a bathtub with a guy in the first place. And I still don't have friends here. It's only him, and we've talked about it more than once, and he says if I did this to him, would have found it funny. I don't know if I just need to loosen up more, but I don't understand how holding underwater for that long was ever funny in his head. He's also complaining now about the marks I left on his wrist/arm, almost faded. I didn't too. It was sudden and I swallowed a bit of water and I was freaking out and just wanted to let go. I apologized for this but told him it was a natural reaction to what he did.
Am I the asshole for punching my stepdaughter after she played a prank on me that scared me? I know the title sounds bad, but please read and throw away, plus fake names. I, 38M, married Judd, 44F, a few years ago, and I acquired a stepdaughter, AB, 14F, as a result. I dated Judd when AB was 8, met her when she was 9, and married Judd when she was 10. I'd say our relationship is oak. She doesn't act bratty towards me and respects me enough as her mom's husband. However, there is one glaring issue about her, and that is her pranking nature. Abby loves to pull pranks. Some examples are her hiding my car keys with what looked like 100 dubs in a box. I found them quickly because she failed to notice my keys have duct tape on them. Another one is when she hid in the fridge, something I still find very weird, to scare the first person who opened it. Well, last Wednesday I arrived home and it seemed that I was the one there. Only my shoes were at the doorstep and I even called out Judd's and AB's names with no answer. This is somewhat normal as Judd sometimes works late, AB stays at school for extracurriculars. So I screwed around with my dog, a German Shepherd and Husky mix for anyone that will ask, for a bit, and then I decided to relive mine myself. When I got to the bathroom, I noticed that the window cabinet was open. I thought nothing of it at first and unzipped my pants, but then I saw a shadow behind the shower curtains. I thought the worst and immediately punched the figure behind the curtains. Well, as everyone may have guessed it from the title, it was AB. She was making a prank video and I had not noticed that she propped her phone up on the bathroom cabinet with 2 cups. I'm not gonna lie, I did not hold back. I punched her as hard as I could. Her nose looked broken and when I realized it, I flipped out and so did she. After maybe 5 minutes of freaking out, I drove her to urgent care and informed Judd of the situation. Her nose was indeed broken and would need about 6 to 12 weeks of recovery. AB won't talk to me, and as for Judd, she thinks that my action may have been justified, but also thinks I should have approached with more caution, which she has refused to elaborate on. So am I the asshole?
Am I the asshole for not sharing my only plate, pregnant woman? I recently found out I have a gluten allergy, which explains all of the stomach pains and aches I've had with trying to eat anything my whole life. Since finding out about the allergy, I've been making sure to avoid that contain trace amounts of gluten because even a small amount causes indigestion and in some cases vomit. I was invited out to breakfast with some of my friends and I let them know of the allergy so we could pick somewhere that actually had food. The place we settled on is a really high-end breakfast restaurant that has a whole separate kitchen, or at least section of kitchen, for preparing their food without gluten, which was a lifesaver since had that not been the case, I would have skipped the restaurant entirely. Included in my friends a couple who recently got pregnant. We can call them Emma and Via. Via is the one who is pregnant and said she wouldn't be having much since she wasn't feeling very well the morning sickness. Everyone understood and offered to let her just have a bites off their plates so she could still have something nice even if it was just a little. I didn't agree to this though, since if they were going to be sharing with each other, I couldn't take part. I explained me not feeling like sharing since I'd just be getting food without getting any, and all my friends seemed to completely understand as well as agree that was very fair. When the food came out, everyone was sharing and having a good time. Via asked if she could have a bite of my food, and I politely declined sharing since I couldn't grab a different bite than anyone else. Via told me her pregnancy cravings were kicking, and all she was asking for was a couple bites, so I should have just given that to her. I told her again I'd already explained I didn't want to share since my food was all I had. Emma told me I could just give her half and order more food if I wasn't satisfied with the amount left, and I again told them the gluten-free options were quite a bit more expensive than what they were eating, and paying for 2 plates just so Via could have half my food didn't seem fair. Via then told me just because I was on a diet didn't mean I could be selfish, and everyone else had no issues sharing. Thankfully, the rest of the people sitting there did help me stand up for myself and told Via I'd already explained I wouldn't be sharing since no one shared back. Well, I'd ordered an egg scramble and some gluten-free pancakes. Everyone else had normal pancakes, French toast, avocado toast, and other things I just couldn't eat. Vita wasn't satisfied there in my justification to why she couldn't have any of my food. She went on and on about how I turned the whole table against her and shamed her for being pregnant and hungry. I told her if she'd gotten her appetite back, she could always order herself late so she didn't have to rely on anyone sharing their food. Via went off at this and told me about all the things she's needed pay for in preparation of her and Emma's baby. She told me I was being selfish and heartless because I didn't want to give her half my plate when I can afford to do so. This is where I may be the a-hole because I told Via she chose to get pregnant and she chose to go through all of the issues that come. I didn't chose to have a glucose salad and I didn't want to go hungry because she wanted to eat off everyone else for free. Via started ugly crying and everyone tried to calm her down, but she and Emma ended up just leaving without paying their portion of the bill. No one blamed me since I was right, but Emma sent me a message telling I could have just said no and left it at that instead of embarrassing Via in front of all her friends. I'm starting to feel very guilty. I didn't want either of them to leave. I just wanted her to stop trying to leverage her pregnancy against me as a way to get the only food I eat. Aita, ETA, trying to answer some of the most answered questions. Yes, Emma did get a plate. She claimed it was too sweet for Via and she should grab a less sweet bite of everyone else's plate. The reason it went from one bite to half my food, which was one pancake of my two, was because she assumed mine was less sweet due to being gluten-free. I don't think that's the case, but that was just her logic. The group agreed wouldn't be spending as much time with either Emma or Via. Ever since getting married, the two of their bitchiness aspects have combined. We also did send them a Venmo request for their part of the bill. They've been told they can either pay the bill or they can never come out to eat with us again.